Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayadmudiraye. Nashtapraheshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, Text number 42. Shravanti sarito bhitah notsarpati udadiyatah agni inde sagiribhi bhuna majjati yad bhayat. Shravanti sarito bhita notsarpati udadiyatah agni indhe sagiribhi bhuna majjati yad bhayat. Shravanti sarito bhita notsarpati udadiyatah agni indhe sagiribhi bhuna majjati yad bhayat. Synonyms: Shravanti, flow; Saritaha, rivers; Bhita, fearful; Na, not; Utsarpati, overflows; Udadhi, the ocean; Yataha, because of whom; Agni, fire; Inde, burns; Sagiribi, with its mountains; Buhu, the earth; Na, not; Majjati, sinks; Yet, of whom; Bhayat, out of fear. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the rivers flow, and the ocean never overflows. Out of fear of Him only does fire burn, and does the earth with its mountains not sink in the water of the universe. Purport. We can understand from the Vedic literature that this universe is half filled with water, on which Garbhadakshahi Vishnu is lying. From his abdomen a lotus flower has grown, and within the stem of that lotus flower all the different planets exist. The material scientist explains that all these different planets are floating because of the law of gravity or some other law. But the actual lawmaker is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we speak of law, we must understand that there must be a lawmaker. The material scientist can discover laws of nature, but they are unable to recognize the lawmaker. From Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, we can know who the lawmaker is. The lawmaker is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said here that the planets do not sink, since they are floating under the order or energy of the Supreme Godhead. They do not fall down into the water which covers half the universe. All the planets are heavy, with their various mountains, seas, oceans, cities, palaces, and buildings, and yet they are floating. It is understood from this passage that all the other planets that are floating in the air have oceans and mountains similar to those on this planet. Om Agnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manavistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swamrupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sujita Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavansya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathabitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Pariyana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sivishaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanto Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhayo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Binda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Gurudas Chaitanya Swami Nityananda. Shravanti Sarito Bhita Not Sarpati Udadiyataha Agni Inde Sagiribi Bhu Namajjati Yad Bhayat. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the rivers flow and the ocean never overflows. Out of fear for him only does fire burn, and does the earth with its mountains not sink in the water of the universe. Yeah. So, we see in this chapter the process of devotional service. Lord Kapila is answering various questions which were raised by Mother Devahuti in the earlier part of the chapter. From we see in 5th, 6th, and 7th verses, Mother Devahuti is asking various questions, and in the entire chapter, Lord Kapila explains the process of devotional service in answering those questions. One of the questions asked in the 4th verse by Mother Devahuti was, describe about the nature of time, by whose fear people perform pious acts. Right. And in this particular section, 35th to 45th verse, Lord Kapila is explaining the characteristics of time, right, where he began that time causes transformation of various material manifestations. It is a shelter of everyone, enters everyone's hearts, master of all masters, Kalayantam Prabhu. Right? It causes every being to be annihilated by another. It holds no one dear, no one is enemy or friend. It gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten Him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and destroys those who have forgotten. Right? It is time only. Right? Antakale chamamevam. Kale chamamevam. So who remembers the Lord, right? He inspires. But those who do not remember the Lord, in the form of Kala itself, it destroys. Now, due to fear of the order of time, from 40th verse, Lord Kapila further explains, all demigods controlling nature perform their functions. All trees and creepers produce fruits and flowers in the proper season. And here it's mentioned about rivers flow, oceans do not overflow. Fire burns and the earth does not sink. Right? Out of fear only of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rivers flow. Right? We see rivers, there are so many rivers flowing. The difference between a river and a lake is a stagnant water. River is a flowing water. It flows. It has an origin, from that particular part this river originated, and then it ends into an ocean or into a bigger river, which ultimately ends into an ocean. Right. But the ocean, when we have very heavy rainfall, we will see that the rivers, uh, it will reach some limit and then it will overflow. But have you ever seen that the ocean overflow? No. You'll have different tides and ebb of the ocean, but it does not overflow because it's under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, fire burns in the air, fire burns. And the different planets, they float. Sharprabhat explains here that half the universe, right, half the universe is covered with water. Garbhodaka ocean, in which Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is lying. And from Garbhodakshayi Vishnu's navel sprouts a stem of the lotus flower. And that stem is the resting place of these different planets. And it goes to this 14 planetary system, and the topmost, where the lotus flower is the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, Satyaloka, right, where Lord Brahma's uh, place is there, and that's why on the lotus flower we see Lord Brahma, right. But the stem goes to this 14 planetary system, so we see that Garbhodaka ocean is like a lotus flower at the bottom of this universe. We see that Lord is resting, right. So the different planetary system, different planets, they float. Even Earth, which is overburdened by the sins of people, does not immediately sink. Right? It does not sink. It floats. It floats. And that it's mentioned that just like at the end of Dwapar Yuga, the earth takes the form of a cow and prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. Uh, and it complains of the miserable condition of the influence of Kali Yuga, which the symptoms were, no, they started seeing at the end of Dwapar Yuga, right? And Mother Earth, in the form of cow, complains to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because he is the one, he is the ultimate lawmaker. If there are various laws that, okay, the sun has to rise every day and it has to set every day, right, at some set time. So there are various laws of nature. We have a book called Laws of Nature. There are various laws of nature. But who is the lawmaker? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. And out of his sphere only, all this is in place at set time. Right? He's a supreme administrator. Right? The supreme administrator. And has employed various demigods and delegated his authority to a certain extent to these different demigods to carry out certain different functions in the material universe. Right. So the time factor also works under his superintendence. Mayadhyakshana prakriti swayate sacharatam. Right? The entire material nature, it works under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? It works under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Just like we see the oceans do not overflow um, in the pastime of Lord Ramachandra. At one time, um, they come to the shore of the ocean, and Lord Ramachandra is performing some austerities, meditating, and offering prayers to the ocean. Initially, offering prayers to the ocean. And for 3 days, without eating, is continuously performing that austerity. So that the ocean can give path to his army to go from one shore of the ocean to another, to go to Lanka, to kill this demon, Ravana, and get Mother Sita back. Since he had abducted Mother Sita. Right? And we see that the ocean, for some reason or the other, he does not now respond for 3 days. And immediately, Lord Ramachandra, to establish authority, that, hey, demigod Varuna, where are you getting the authority from? From the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you are not pleading to the request of Supreme Personality of Godhead? Immediately, he says, if you're not going to respond, I'll dry you up. And you know very well that I can dry you up with my weapons. And immediately, the ocean personified comes out and is offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, no, please do not dry me up. What would happen to all the creatures, all the living entities who has taken shelter in me? Right. So immediately, he's praying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's mentioning that, oh, in your army is this Nala and Nil. They are qualified. They are the sons of Vishwakarma. They are qualified to build a bridge. And then he allows for a bridge to be built on him, so that the army of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can cross the ocean. Right. So we see a practical example of that out of fear, immediately ocean makes a passage. Right. Yeah. So, and similarly, everything else is held. All the material universes are held in place. And these are the characteristics of time, which the Supreme Personality of God, Lord Kapila, explains to Mother Devahuti. Okay, so that's what I have for this verse. Are there any questions, discussions on this?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my obeisance. All Krishna Shri Prabhu.
Please accept my hand. All glory to Prabhupada. Oh, just give me a moment. Let me get some water. Go ahead. I'm listening.
So, Prabhu, how do we understand that at times oceans also overflow, like tsunamis? And if rivers can overflow, does it mean that the rivers are not under the control?
No, it's not that when they overflow, they're not under control, but they carry out the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Where at times the Lord shows his anger by causing devastation, right? Just
Mm.
like at the end of there is a partial devastation and a full devastation, right? At the end of each day of the Lord Brahma, there's a partial devastation, right?
Mm.
Which we call it, okay, a tsunami, and tsunami does show some wrath of the ocean or the supreme numbers under the direction of the supreme personality of Godhead. But talk about the partial devastation, where all the material universes, right, are submerged in the partial devastation. And the full devastation, where all the material universes, along with the living entities, come back into Mahavishnu. Full
Mm.
devastation, right? So, uh, uh, in that wrath of the ocean or the river, they also follow the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to carry out the Supreme Lord's orders. Not a blade of grass can move without his sanction. So, what to speak of a tsunami or the rivers overflowing?
Mm. Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. But when it says here that the ocean never overflows, the tsunami is one part of it where the big wave goes out, and whatever comes on its path, it brings it back into the ocean, right? Um, think about it completely overflowing, like when a river overflows, we see a flood, right? But think about an ocean which can come start completely overflowing on both shores. What would happen, right? Like
Mm.
like during the time of the pralaya, devastation, where everything comes under water, and we see that the Supreme Lord also delegates his authority to when he himself incarnates in the form of Matsya to save the scriptures and the sages. Paritrana sadhana vinasa chaduskatam. Right. And that
Mm.
also there's a plan of the Supreme Lord that he incarnates himself as Matsya Avatar and he guides Manu. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? We still have 5 minutes.
Same way we can explain about earthquake.
Same way we can explain about the earthquake. Yes, that also was a wrath where the earth, which is overburdened by the sins of the people, working under the superintendence of the Lord, shows earthquake. Like right now, we see different changing seasons. Some places it's too hot, some places too cold, right? But overall, we see uh, because of the ozone depletion, the heat waves throughout the world. Temperatures in above 50s, right, in many parts of India. And here also at times we see temperatures soaring into hundreds, right, Fahrenheit, which I have been here for last 30 odd years in US, and I can see uh, the winters before. There'll be easily 15 to 20 snowstorms. And now it's limited to like a couple of snowstorms a year for many, many years. Right. So changing seasons, and everything changes under the superintendence of the Lord. Right. When there is an overburden of sins, there will be different devastations. Seasons will also not be that perfect. Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Still have 3 minutes. One more question or reflection. Yep. Okay. Shravanti Sarito Bhita Notsarpati Udadiyata Agni Inde Sagiribi. Inde. Inde means burns, fire burns. Yeah.
Prabhuji, can you tell us a little bit about Ekadashis today?
Tell us a little bit about Ekadasi. Okay. Today is Ekadasi. And there are various names of different Ekadasis. I believe today is what? Indira Ekadasi. But Ekadasi is also a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who, one minute, let me see which Ekadasi it is. Yogini Ekadasi. And then there is a book which explains about all these different Ekadasis. But basically, Ekadasi, being the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has been blessed by the Supreme Lord. That whoever fasts on your day, right, there's the 11th day of the waning moon and the 11th day of the waxing moon, right? So, just like we have Purnima, right, where we see moon full aura, right? And then we have Amavasya, where we don't see a moon, and then we have a new moon followed by it, right? So there's a waning moon period of 15 days, and then there's a waxing moon period of 15 days. It's also called a Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha, right? And during that 15 days period, the 11th day is blessed by the Supreme Lord. All days are blessed, but the 11th day is especially blessed as Ekadasi. And on that Ekadasi day, whoever fasts, right, especially Vaishnavas, are prescribed to fast from grains and beans. Uh, Srila Prabhupada explains that ultimately fasting means complete fasting. What's the reason of fasting? The reason of fasting is you don't spend time in eating and doing all the other things to be dictated by the urges of our senses, but instead use these senses in the service of the Lord. And whoever performs bhakti to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, especially on Ekadasi, the benefits are multiplied. Not that the devotee worry about the benefits or losses. So a day is given that on that day, you don't worry about cutting your nails, you don't worry about cutting hair, you don't worry about this, you don't worry about that. Just focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or performing devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is Ekadasi, right? Where you don't worry about anything. You don't even worry about thinking that I'm fasting today. Oh, I'm doing Nirjala. Many times, our mind becomes occupied. Oh, I'm doing Nirjala. Oh, no, I cannot do anything because I am abstaining from water. That's not the purpose of Ekadasi. The purpose of Ekadasi is to perform devotional service to its maximum to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if your fasting comes in the way of performing devotional service, then that fasting is also not that important. Now, take something by which you can perform devotional service more, right? So that's the whole idea. Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
No,
Dandavad Pranam.
no problem. Okay, we are 703. All right. Thank you very much. We like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day and week ahead. And we like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Nrsingo, Jai Nrsingo, Jai Nrsingo, Baladesha Jaya Padam Mukhakarma Lingam, Ugraviram Mavistam Jalantam Sad Sato Mukham Nrshingam Bhishanam Badram Mityam Namami Ham. Nrsinga Bhagavan ki Jai Palada. Let's offer our humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Mancha Kalpataru Bhayascha Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhayo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Vaishnavinda ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari 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 Bol. So today he is fasting. There will be Ekadasi Kirtan in the evening at the temple from 7 to 9. And tomorrow Parna time is from 5:30 to 10:30 a.m. to break fast. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madhuri Prabhu.